Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving into a career that's, well, it's essential, but you probably don't think about it much.
Right.
We're talking rail logistics coordination.
That's right. It's about way more than just trains. We're talking about those intricate supply chains that, keep things moving all over the country.
Exactly, and it's not always trains either, right?
Yeah, a lot of times we're talking about coordinating between trucks, ships, even planes sometimes to make sure everything arrives on time, like a giant puzzle with all these moving pieces.
It's like imagine being an air traffic controller, but instead of planes, it's tons of cargo being moved across, well, across continents.
Exactly.
Now, for this deep dive, we're really lucky to have some great resources from RoleCatcher.
Oh, yeah. They're a fantastic resource for all things career development. They gave us this career guide that breaks down, well, pretty much everything about being a rail logistics coordinator, like what they actually do every day, what skills you need, what kind of career path you can expect. And they even have, get this, interview
It's
questions.
super comprehensive.
It is. So if you've ever, been curious about this kind of behind the scenes role, or maybe you're even thinking about a career change, this deep dive is for you.
Definitely. One of the things that really jumped out at me from the Roll Catcher guide is how it's not just about, like you said, trains.
Right.
It's about understanding that whole transportation network and making it as efficient as possible.
Oh, totally.
So you're not just a train enthusiast, you got to know how trucking companies work, what about shipping lines, and even sometimes air freight. It's all got to work
It's
together.
like being a conductor, but for a whole orchestra of transportation.
Exactly.
And looking at the what they do section here, it seems like they wear a lot of
They do.
hats.
It's a pretty dynamic job. 1 minute, you could be, I don't know, allocating transport equipment, basically deciding which train or truck goes where. And the next, you're stepping back and thinking about the big picture, like how to design a whole supply chain that just works better.
So it's strategic thinking, but also being able to adapt on the fly when things inevitably go wrong,
Oh, yeah, all the time.
which I imagine happens a lot.
All the time.
The guide mentions communication skills a lot. Like it seems just as important as knowing about logistics.
Oh, absolutely, because you're the go-between, right? You're talking to the clients who are shipping their stuff, then you're talking to the trucking companies actually moving things, and sometimes even government agencies get involved.
So you got to be able to speak everyone's language.
Exactly, and explain these really complicated things in a way that everybody understands.
Yeah.
And it's not just explaining, you're negotiating, persuading, sometimes just putting out fires.
Sounds like you need the patience of a saint to do this job.
It takes a certain personality, for sure. You need tact, diplomacy, the ability to build strong relationships.
Totally.
Because everyone you're dealing with, they've got their own deadlines, their own priorities, and you have to somehow find a solution that works for everybody. The guide actually uses the word persuasion, which I thought was interesting.
So it's not just about being organized. You got to be a diplomat, too.
You got to get buy-in from all sides.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. You have to understand what makes everyone tick, what their motivations are, and then find creative solutions that, well, keeps everyone as happy as possible. It's a balancing act, for sure.
Okay, so I have to ask, when I hear rail logistics coordinator, I kind of picture someone, stuck in an office all day with endless spreadsheets about train schedules.
Yeah, that's a common misconception.
It is.
Yeah, there's definitely desk work. We are talking about coordinating complex stuff. But the work environment, it can be pretty different depending on the day or even the company. Some rail logistics coordinators are in an office most of the time, using software to track shipments and manage the logistics, while others, they might be out in the field coordinating with loading crews or inspecting cargo.
Oh, wow. So you could find yourself at a port one day and then in a meeting the next.
Exactly. And that's something a lot of people in this field really enjoy.
Yeah, that variety would be nice. Keeps things interesting. But, and maybe this is a silly question, with all the talk about logistics and supply chains, it's easy to forget, why does this role even matter?
That's a great question, and it's important. Because think about it, everything we use every day, the food we eat, our clothes, electronics, even medicine, a lot of that travels by rail at some point in its journey.
Oh, yeah, true.
And the rail logistics coordinator, they're the ones making sure the stuff gets where it needs to go, on time and in one piece. They literally keep the wheels of commerce turning.
So the next time we see one of those massive freight trains, we should think of them. The unsung heroes of getting us our stuff.
And if you're someone who likes solving these complex puzzles, and you like to see the real-world impact of your work, this could be the job for you.
Okay, so we know rail logistics coordinators are essential, but what about the future? I mean, technology is changing everything these days, even trains, right?
It's true, the whole transportation world is changing so fast,
Mm.
especially with automation and data.
Right, it's like self-driving trucks, AI doing who knows what, even drones delivering things.
It's a lot to keep up with, for sure.
It is. So how does someone in this field even, keep up?
That's where adaptability comes in. You could have years of experience planning routes the traditional way, but then this new tech shows up.
You got to be ready to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe even combine it with the old ways. It's about being open to how things might work, not just how they do right now.
So you're always learning in this job. The guide actually mentions, I think it was autonomous vehicles and drones as like big deals for the future.
They're already having an impact.
But how do those fit in with trains? Like those seem like totally separate things.
That's a good point, and it shows how we got to think differently now.
Mm-hmm.
Trains, they're probably always going to be the best for moving huge amounts of stuff across long distances.
Makes sense, efficient and all that.
Exactly. But where these other technologies come in, it's that last mile problem.
What's that?
So imagine a train gets to a big city, right? It's got all this cargo for different places.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Now, instead of having trucks navigate through all that traffic, what if autonomous vehicles or even drones took over for those final deliveries?
Oh, I see. So it's more efficient, less pollution probably.
Right, and faster. It's not about one technology winning. It's about using them all where they make the most sense.
So rail logistics coordinators, they might be managing fleets of these self-driving trucks someday.
It's possible they could be the ones making those decisions, figuring out the best way to integrate everything.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So it's not just trains, it's like the whole future of how we get our stuff.
It's a really exciting time to be in logistics, that's for sure.
It sounds like it. The guide also talks about, well, career paths. It seems like there's a lot of ways to, like, specialize in this field, right?
Yeah, you can really build a career in rail logistics, and you don't always need some specific degree to even get started.
Oh, really?
Experience is key. The guide really emphasizes internships or entry-level jobs in logistics, even if it's not trains specifically, just getting your foot in the door.
So start at the bottom, learn how it all works from the ground up.
Exactly. And as you gain experience, you can start focusing on what interests you most. International shipping, intermodal transportation, maybe even things like supply chain sustainability. It's becoming a bigger deal all the time.
I can see that. They also mentioned certifications, like being CSCP certified. What does that even stand for?
That's the Certified Supply Chain Professional.
Okay, so what's that all about?
It's a big deal globally. It means you really know your stuff about supply chains, from planning and sourcing to logistics and delivery. Think of it like leveling up your skills.
Like showing employers you're serious about this.
Absolutely. And it's not just about looking good on a resume. Taking those courses,
Mm-hmm.
you learn from the pros, stay up to date on what's new in the field. It's an investment.
And there was another one, right?
Oh, the CTL,
Yes. Certified in...
Certified in Transportation and Logistics. That one's really focused on the transportation side, so things like, I don't know, regulations, warehousing, even risk management.
So if someone wants to be like the rail expert, that's the one to go for.
It could give them an edge, yeah. But both certifications show you're serious about your career. And honestly, the learning never really stops in this field.
Always got to be one step ahead.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the skills, the tech, even certifications, but let's be real. Can you make a living doing this?
It's a valid question.
Yeah, like what's the salary potential for a rail logistics coordinator?
Well, the RoleCatcher guide doesn't give like exact numbers because it varies so much.
Right, depends on experience, location, all that.
Exactly. But they do highlight good salary potential as a major pro. And if you look at industry data, it seems pretty accurate.
So maybe not getting rich quick, but a good, solid career.
Yeah, you can build a comfortable life for sure, especially as you gain experience, move up into more senior roles.
And I'd imagine job security is pretty good, right? It's not like a transportation industry is going anywhere.
Exactly. It's always going to be there in
Yeah.
some form. And with everything we've talked about, those skills are in demand.
So stability, decent salary, and you're keeping things running. Not bad.
Not bad at all. Plus, you're using your brain every day, solving these logistical puzzles. It's not boring, that's for sure.
Speaking of which, the guide had those sample interview questions. Some of those were tough.
Yeah, they weren't messing around.
No, but it makes sense, right? They want to know you're serious about this.
Exactly.
One that stood out to me, it was like, describe a time you had to resolve a conflict with someone on a project. So it's not just about knowing logistics, it's about like people skills too.
Oh, big time. You're constantly dealing with different personalities, different agendas. You have to be able to listen, communicate clearly, find that middle ground.
So diplomacy is key.
It's essential. You're not just moving cargo. You're managing relationships, finding solutions everyone can live with.
That's a lot of responsibility. Going through all this, it made me realize something. We've talked about the technical stuff, the career path, all that. But there's something, I don't know, almost humbling about this job?
How so?
Well, as a rail logistics coordinator, you see how connected everything is, and maybe how fragile it all is, too.
That's an interesting point.
Right, like one disruption somewhere could be a natural disaster or some kind of conflict, even just a strike, and suddenly it affects supply chains globally.
It really highlights how interconnected we all are.
Exactly, and that these rail logistics coordinators, they're kind of holding it all together.
It's a hidden complexity most people don't even think about.
Exactly.
And it takes real skill to make sure everything runs smoothly, even when things get tough.
So, to wrap things up, if you're listening to this and you like a challenge, you want a career that's actually important, keeps things moving, I think we can recommend this one.
Absolutely.
It's clearly more than just trains. It's about problem solving, understanding how a world works, and maybe even making it a little better.
Well said.
And next time you see a freight train, you'll know there's a rail logistics coordinator making sure it gets where it's going.
The unsung heroes of, well, pretty much everything.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.